How's it going, everybody? Welcome to OP Entertainment. I'm Omar Darwish.
And I'm Pratik Cherian.
And this is our review of Loki Season 2, Episode 3 at this point?
Episode 3, 1893.
1893. We're going spoilers now. It's
spoilers.
Spoiler territory. You're 3 episodes in. Come on. You know what to expect at this point, right?
There we go. All right.
This is clearly your favorite episode, Pratik, so I'll let you take the lead.
No, this is the word. I'm having difficulty getting my energy up for this podcast because of how much that episode sapped my energy. But you know,
okay, I know we usually go with like what we liked first, but what didn't you like about this so much? Because like it's a little cartoony at spots, but like it fits the theme of the Missed Minutes episode.
It's cartoony. There's multiple chase sequences that go nowhere. The pacing is completely off.
I mean, you're never gonna get me to argue on the side of a chase sequence. So, sure, pacing is fine.
I thought the pacing was rough. I really just, it's the Missed Minutes episode, but it's also the Victor Timely episode, and I don't know, the character just didn't work for me. I'm not interested in him at all.
We can't talk about the episode without mentioning Jonathan Majors is in this. How did you feel about how he did this? It's your least favorite Kang so far?
Definitely so. Yeah. I don't know. It just.
He had to do something. He had to do something to make him different, right? Like
yeah. But it's just. I don't know if it was the stutter or just how slow he was talking or what it was, but like every time he was on screen, I'm like, can we just speed this up just a little bit?
It just didn't seem genuine.
Yeah,
like there's movies like Leo and I almost said 10 Things I Hate About You. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Yes,
there you go. It took us 10 minutes to get there, but we got there. Leo's in that, and he has like a little bit of like a stutter to his talk. That felt genuine. This feels like it felt like every stutter was scripted exactly how it was. I don't know. It just didn't feel real.
It felt so gimmicky.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't like it.
It also felt like he doesn't. I feel Jonathan Majors has acting range. Why don't you just give him a different type of character? Like, I don't know. They just didn't have a way of making him different from the He Who Remains who we've seen. Which also question, is that the same He Who Remains, or is this a variant?
So first of all, asking me about how time travel in Loki historically
I'm
works,
officially confused. I'm officially confused. Only on that aspect of it. On who this character is. I'm confused on that.
I'm going to say that they all refer to him as a variant, and I see no reason why he wouldn't be a variant, so we're going to say it's a variant.
Okay. I mean, they're all just variants, right, at this point?
Well, the ones that are... There's still the ones who are on the sacred timeline.
This Kang, though, that they're talking to, is he going to grow up to be the He Who Remains?
I want to say that where they're leaving us is he could, but...
We don't know yet.
But it's not like we're seeing the past history of the He Who Remains who we've seen before. Could he become another He Who Remains? Sure, maybe. But
so we're skipping all the way to the end of the episode pretty much. But that line he has where he's like, "You don't know my heart. You don't know like what I could do or who I could be." Right? Like that made me think that maybe this is a different version of Kang. But
also could be true.
But that was like the only line that he had the whole time that made me feel like, I don't know, a genuine Kang was here.
I think that might also be my other problem with this episode is I feel like a lot of it was just banking on the fact that we would be so eager to find out about Kang himself. And if this is another variant, or if Victor Timely himself doesn't actually matter to the overall like Kang arc of the MCU, then this episode's a complete waste of time.
So then maybe it's just safe to assume that it is Kang. This is the He Who Remains that we know, and this is how he started and everything.
Or maybe not the He Who Remains that we know, but this could be like
somebody. This could be the Kang and Kang's dynasty.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Something like that.
As long as they don't throw him away like they do with the Kang and Ant-Man, right? That's everyone's big gripe with that movie, right? That's the only thing they didn't like.
They really could.
They could throw it away. Like
they really could. There's no reason for them to keep him.
I mean, I don't know if this is his only appearance, but you gotta assume that they're setting him up for something. I was a little confused
They
in the
don't
fact
have
that
to,
like
though, because again, we're talking about variants and multiversal wars and things like that. They could very easily just have him at the end of this be killed by another Kang variant.
but you
and be
can't
like,
just
"Oh."
keep introducing characters and not like telling us their place and everything without it eventually starting to feel like, okay, so what even matters? And like I don't think so far the MCU has done that. If they did that, what you're describing in this case, then I would say that yeah, that's bogus. That's
but
bogus.
the fact that I have no strong conviction saying that they are definitely keeping this one around, I think also kind of hurts.
You know what though? I like that we're talking about like how he worked as Kang versus like, does this show work overall? Because I like the show. I like the show a lot. Yeah. And you were saying this is probably your weakest episode of the season.
This is my weakest episode for sure.
There's only 3 episodes. I
also think that part of the reason why this episode itself is so weak is that and again, we kind of talked about this before. The thing that makes this show work is the Loki Mobius dynamic. And
they're front and center the whole time for the most part.
I don't know. I
don't for at least half of it.
I really feel like you were saying, this is really the Ravonna like Miss Minutes show at this point, and I don't think that interaction works to the same. It's not as charming. It doesn't grab you as much as the Loki Mobius.
I liked their little friction.
There's a little bit of Loki Mobius in this episode, but not enough to carry it. This is also the longest episode. Yeah. And again,
but I appreciated that because I kept thinking the episode was going to end and it just kept going. And I really
not
enjoyed
that I'm saying
that.
I mind that it's long, but I'm saying like I don't think that there was enough here to grab me for the entire length. So I really felt the length.
I pretty much have to disagree with like everything you said. Other than I thought that the foot chases were a bit cartoony when they're playing the like music and stuff. Like I get the time or whatever, but like it felt like they were like, hey, this is the Miss Minutes cartoon episode. Let's give it that like cartoon feel or whatever. And I don't know if it needed that tonally in spots. It just felt like eh. Also, little minor nitpick. The beginning of this episode starts with them like in that loom room, and it's like Nolan did the sound mixing. Did you catch it? They're like talking on the other side of the room, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, what did he say?
Like, wait, why did? I know they're on the other side of the room.
I had to
I don't need that to be quiet.
I was like, come on. That's what I'm saying. It felt like Nolan did the sound mixing because he's all about like, oh, you can't really hear.
If Nolan did the sound mixing, we'd hear the loom, and he'd be like, yeah, they're trying to talk over the loom.
Yeah, you can't hear someone when a train's going by. Come on. Anyways, that was a big thing for me, but that seemed to quickly resolve itself. It was just that one thing.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of cartoony, the whole like partnership thing with Victor Timely going backwards, did that not feel like Super Marty McFly? Don't call me chicken.
It felt like he had a trigger word. If that's what you're saying,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Like,
it also feels like Miss Minutes knows that like that Kang does not work well with others, and I mean we know Kang doesn't work well with others.
He says it at the beginning like, oh, I don't do partnerships, and then they had brought it again, and that's why I don't know. It was just like it just felt so forced.
I almost thought to myself like it was a stupid thing for Ravonna to say. Like she almost knows better, right? I don't know. Like that you're right, but that's a small gripe. I didn't think that was a huge thing. For me, it was mostly just the cartooniness of the episode didn't really work for me, and I don't know. I'm not gonna say that what Jonathan Majors did here didn't work for me, but like or was bad. But I guess I will say it didn't work for me 100% how I wanted it to. I guess
it didn't work for me.
I've liked his portrayal of every version of Kang he's done so far. This is probably the weakest, yeah. But they could turn it around still if he's in like episode 5 and 6 or whatever. We just have 2 left, right? Or 4, 5, and 6, right?
Right.
If he's in any of those, I mean, he could change the tide for me. But if people hate this version of Kang and they didn't like the last version of Kang and they didn't really care for him in Loki season 1, does Marvel need to pivot at this point? Or
I think there's plenty of other reasons why Marvel needs to pivot. So
let's just assume that Jonathan Majors is cleared of all charges. Is it, like, does Marvel need to pivot just because the story isn't working?
There's a whole other discussion about whether getting cleared of all charges means you did or did not do it. But anyway, ignoring that as much as we can, I think generally people liked him in Loki season 1. I think.
Yeah, it's just really.
I was the lone hater, the voice in the wilderness.
Sure.
Yeah.
But people didn't really like him in Quantumania, and people aren't really seeming to like this, right? So, like...
I haven't seen reaction to this, but yeah, sure, I'll take your word for it.
I just feel like he's got, like, one more Kang in him before people are like, all right, yeah, no, get rid of this guy.
And again, I feel like there's plenty of it. All right, but yes, I could see it. It's definitely not... Although, at the same time, I feel like people were making these jokes about Thanos, like Thanos just sits in a chair, and then we got him in Infinity War, it was like, oh my god, this... Yeah.
I'm just saying, I just think that... Jonathan Majors might not be good for the MCU overall.
Sure.
And this episode, he's the weakest part, and
Easily.
in maybe a weak episode. I like the episode.
Ooh,
but
speaking of weak parts, to pivot really quickly.
Sure.
What'd you think about Sylvie in this one? Because we didn't really get a ton
Did
of
you think
her.
she was weak in this? I think that Sylvie doesn't seem to grow as a character at all, or at least she hasn't since we've left her, right? In season 1. She seems to be the same, and also we kind of just get like a retread of what happened in the finale of season 1 here.
It also, I feel like she has 3 scenes and they're all the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just very one note, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to see more.
I don't know what she wants anymore, or like what her goal is.
Right.
I also don't know what Ravonna wants, like what Renslayer wants. Does she want a seat at the end of time? Does she want to fix the TVA? Does she want to just be
Clearly
free
she
and live her
doesn't
own
want to.
life? Like,
Clearly she doesn't want to fix the TVA. I don't know. It almost feels like she's just operating off of curiosity. Like, let's see what happens. But that's
because like her
weird,
and Mobius is like friction in their
Yeah.
debates they were throwing back and forth. I'm like, is this what we were upset about before? Like, is this why we weren't? Is this why we drifted apart? Because I feel like it's a whole new bag of like, oh, I had to cover your ass throughout our whole career. It's like, was that what was going on? Or like, I don't know. Like,
Which it feels weird for after coming off of an episode that was so focused on Renslayer as a major piece of the episode, and we're still just like, so what is she doing?
so what's going on with her?
Yeah. Like that feels weird.
We're all over the place now, but going to Renslayer, I guess.
We're still on Renslayer.
Yeah, sure. Going to the end though, where Miss Minute says that she has a secret for Renslayer.
Sure.
We can assume that's just the fact that go on.
My assumption is that it's the fact that she started the TVA with Kang, because we know that from Loki.
And then Kang
going
doesn't do
back in time.
partnerships.
Yeah, and I assume at some point either Kang wiped her mind or she agreed to have her mind wiped or whatever else. Something along those lines.
Okay. I feel like they should have just given us the reveal at the end of this episode, because it would have given this episode a little bit more.
And this episode needed more.
It needed something. I liked it, but I feel like I get why you and maybe the average fan wouldn't care for this.
I don't see myself ever coming. I can't see myself coming back to this episode.
I mean, we didn't even mention that it's in Chicago. Like, that's great. We go to multiple time periods of Chicago. Like, come on now.
Each one worse than the last.
Okay. Anyway. Speaking of that, though, a little bit, another gripe. The set design wasn't great for me. I kept thinking back to, like, Boba Fett, and, like, when they're, like, doing the chases in Boba Fett, and they're just, like, running around the same rock.
Yeah.
And stuff
That's Obi-Wan.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way, anything that Star Wars, Disney Plus has done.
Boba Fett was the 2-mile-per-hour scooters.
Yeah, the scooters going around the same square foot of land. Yeah. Either way, it felt really, and it didn't feel like CG. It just felt like, man, they really just built like this on a stage.
They built
just,
one building, and they were just like, all right, we're gonna make this work.
It felt like a Squid Game set. Like it didn't feel real to me. But again, that's kind of like a minor nitpick. I like this episode a lot because of where it took us and where we are now in the show. I feel like, okay, now like the ball's rolling now. You know what I mean?
I kind of felt that before. I don't know.
I guess I felt that before too, but like I felt like we were at a slower pace. I feel like we've jumped now. We've almost been making jumps every episode, but this feels like I don't know. I'm super excited to see what's coming next.
I'm glad you are.
Just give it your 0. Are you ready to score this?
Yeah, sure. I'm fine. It's a 2. Maybe 3. Nah, it's a 2. It's a 2. There's very little things that I liked in this. Yeah.
I quite enjoyed this.
Sure.
Jonathan Majors' performance wasn't really there for me, but it was okay. It didn't ruin the episode by any means. I like where we are now, and I like where we're going forward. I'm thinking like maybe like a 6 or a 7. It is probably the weakest of the season, but I think there's a lot in here to enjoy.
How much of that 6 or 7 is because of what this sets up for the rest of the show versus the episode itself?
I mean, it's the episode that is a big part of it, but it's also the episode itself. I mean, we get Miss Minutes again, we get Ravonna again. Like I always love these characters. I like to see them. Get out of here. They were the best. They're at least the best part of this episode.
It's because they're the majority of this episode.
That doesn't always mean that it's the best. I thought it was good.
Gives it a 2.
Man, I'm curious. Is the internet as mixed on this as we are? Because I thought this was pretty good.
We'll find out. All right, you want to take us out?
Yeah, guys, we'll see you next week for episode 4. I can't wait.
All right, see you then.
See ya.